Hi there, this is Alvin with kickstartcommerce.com, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to automate WordPress posts and pages using a bit of PHP scripting. So the first question is first, why would we ever want to automate WordPress posts or pages? So from experience, I'm a bit lazy, if you will, to a certain extent. And so I actually operate a couple of websites whereby I go and scrape certain CSV files or Excel files or even text files and retrieve information from them. So how I used to do this is every day I would get up, I would spend at least 4 to 5 hours of putting some of the going through the same repetitive task, if you will, from copying and pasting from one file into WordPress, and I wanted my time back. Ultimately, that's hard to scale. That process, that manual process, is hard to scale across, a handful of sites, let alone 10 to even hundreds of websites. And so I tend to operate most of my websites using WordPress. And so, having a software development background, I'm basically going to show you just a simple and easy way, nothing complicated here, about how to use or basically create your own automated script to script WordPress. So one of the first things that you'll want to do is be for sure here. So this is my WordPress directory. I'm using this local um, WordPress install using XAMPP or Bitnami. And so you'll see here momentarily, I've created a test folder that we'll use here. And I'll go ahead and click inside. There is a test.php file that you'll likely create the same file and rename it something a bit more descriptive for what you'll be doing. I choose to put it inside a folder just because I don't necessarily care for files to live outside or within, I guess you'd say, the WordPress install file main files. And so I'll put my files, whether I'm parsing files or just the scripting file itself, inside a folder. So I suggest you do the same. You can name it test just for test, and then when you actually go to name or you go to production, name it something for production. So that's that. These are all basically the WordPress install files. So get that set up on your web server or locally. So I'll show you. This is my WordPress install. Like I said, I'm using localhost here. You could be using your web server for this as well. And then I'm already logged in. And if we go to the dashboard, you can see I have no posts that have been made. So there's no activity there. And so then next what we'll do is we'll open up Sublime, and I'll open up that text, the test.php file. And so you can use a word editor of your choice, Notepad++, Text Wrangler. I choose to use Sublime only because that's what I've just been using. So as you can see, I've commented out 3 links, one being the actual website, which I just showed you, the admin, and that's the URL, and then the test file. I posted those there just so I could have easy access as we switch back and forth. So one of the first things that you'll want to do is to require the wp-load.php file. It is a built-in WordPress file that you'll want to include that basically loads all the WordPress functions, which we'll be using one of the functions today, wp_insert_post, to actually insert our post. So one of the first things that you'll want to do is set up your post variables. So after you require that file, you can just use require, or do like I did here, require underscore once, and then you'll want to go make sure that this is the path to that wp-load.php file. If you were using this test file in the same directory as wp-load, you would basically exclude that lead in. And so, but because we're not using or having the test.php file rest in the same directory, we're doing it one directory down in the test, we basically have to tell it go one directory up and include the file. So moving right along with our post variables, you'll want to set all of these variables, and I've indicated out here what they're expecting. So in this one, you can do post or page. I don't think that you'll really be automating pages to be posted as much as you will post. So for this, we'll use post. Then you'll need your user ID, and you'll need the actual integer user ID that WordPress uses. And so you'll have to likely log in to your WordPress, either the database PHP my admin, or just use command line SQL to go to the users table and to find your ID. Just for the sake of this and for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through that, but feel free, drop me a comment if you definitely need help finding that, and I'll help you find it. Next are the categories. And so with the categories, what you can actually do, which I wish you could do it with the users, but with the categories, you can actually go to post categories, and I just made a category called auction. And if you pay close attention to when you edit the file, you can edit this file, click up here, and it'll give you the ID. It'll be tag underscore ID equals 2, and that's the category ID that we'll be using. So I'll click back to dashboard, click back in, and you can see I've set that to 2. So you can set your category to 2. For this tutorial, we're only using one category. If you wanted to use multiple categories, you could by simply separating each category with a comma. So if we had more than one category that we wanted this post to be associated with, then we could essentially do what I did there, using commas to separate each value. For the sake of this tutorial, we'll use the one auction value of 2. Next is you'll want to be able to set the post status. So in this, we're setting it to a future date, but you could also set it to be a draft as well as publish. Next is setting our title. So you can set the title by basically doing what I did here. And so, for instance, with some of what I do, I post like a daily list of some sort, and I will use this script that will just run daily. And so think of if you had something like Woot, or some sort of daily deal type of situation that you were running, or circumstance that you needed this for. You could basically set this up to run and say, hey, here's a new and exciting post today, and then use the built-in PHP function to actually list the date that the script is running. And so, if you run it daily or, hourly, then, you can use the built-in PHP function to indicate such. For this, I just basically use the date, and you can look up PHP date method, Google that basically Google that, and it'll return likely some results that you can directly go there and read more about the date function. So after we set our title, we'll set our content. Here I'm just using regular old HTML tags. Put in an H1 tag called vacations. Vacations are, started another paragraph that basically says vacations are the best thing in this life. And then below it, I concatenate yet another lead content variable. And then I also use the WordPress more tag, and then start another. So when we view from the web page or from the website's homepage where it lists our blog post, we'll only be able to see the title in this first line. Then when we click the more button, we'll be able to actually see the entire post in its entirety. So that's the post. Next are the time variables, and here's where things can get a bit tricky. And so we'll want to set all the time variables here to 0. Then we set a counter. So truth be told, the reason why this is likely tricky, or it won't necessarily make sense, is because we're posting only one time. But let's say you had 5 files and you wanted to parse each file and create a post for each file. Well, to parse each file, you're likely going to use a for each statement to iterate through each one. But as you iterate through each one, you need to account for the time difference, because you don't want to set them to post all at the same time. You may want to set something up that, hey, I want to post every 3 hours, or I want to post every 15 minutes. So the start dates or the publish dates need to be, 15 minutes apart, 3 hours apart. You get it. So in this, we basically would set the counter. So it's not going to make sense only because this is a single post. So here we're just going to use 1. If you were using the for each statement, you would basically use this counter to actually increment up after each parsing. So again, set this to 1 only because we're posting once. The minute increment, we're going to set it to post 1 minute into the future, just for the sake of this tutorial. Now you could also set this to go, 15 minutes, so that you can basically set the time between each post or publish date. Next, we want to adjust the clock. This is where things get tricky because your web server could actually be running in a different time zone than your local time zone. And so what you'll need to do is be able to account for. So you may say, I need it to post at 8 o'clock a certain time, but your web server, it may be like 5 a.m. and you're trying to post at 8 p.m. Well, to adjust for that time, then you would have to use this adjust clock minutes and adjust for that time. Now, there's some other ways around that. You could go in, if you own your own server and not in shared hosting, and actually set your time zone appropriately. And so a lot of times I tend to use a script using a cron job, and because some of the sites are in shared hosting, I'm unable to really change that cron job's, I guess you'd say, the exact time. So I have to finagle a little bit and use this adjust time by setting the minutes in advance. So if something is running at 5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, but I need it to post at 8, then I need to come in and add, a difference of 120 minutes or sometimes, 60 minutes, so that when it does run, that my post will actually post on the local time that I want it to. For this one, only because we're posting into the future, we're going to leave it at 0 minutes, so make no adjustments. Here's the calculation. So we take the 1 times the minute increment, which is 1. So the minute counter variable is equal to 1. Next, we take and reset the minute counter variable again and make it equal to minute counter from previous line, which is 1, plus adjusted clock minutes, which is 0. So minute counter is 1. Next, we set the timestamp, and we use the PHP function, built-in functions, or methods, date, and then string to time. We take the minute counter, place it here, basically to increment 1 minute in time, and the string to time gives seconds. So it basically takes this this text string of plus 1 minute, and that adds it to the current time whenever it runs, and basically sets it a minute into the future. And then we format the date to be WordPress friendly by using the year, month, date, and then hours, minutes, and seconds. And then we basically just call that the timestamp. So now, getting down to, now that the calculations are over, we can get down to the nitty-gritty business of actually inserting the post. So to insert the post, we're going to use the function wp underscore insert underscore post. And we're going to pass to it what's called another variable, or an argument, a function argument, which is a variable called new post, which is an array of everything, or rather all of the fields with their necessary database binding. We set that up and make those bindings basically bind to all of the variables that we've set up here. So if you wanted to know more about the arguments and what arguments are accepted in their values, you can basically copy this WP underscore insert underscore post, go Google it, or visit the WordPress.com, or more specifically the WordPress.org site. Um, Search for that function. It'll give you all the necessary arguments that are valid and their valid default values. So we set a post underscore ID variable setting, and then we'll define that post underscore ID variable and then set it equal to use WP underscore insert underscore post. Finally, we just add a bit of error checking, which I'll show you here. So we need to know that this post was entered successfully. Typically WordPress, or rather WordPress returns a post ID. And so we just check if post ID, then echo, yay, I made a new post. If not, something went wrong and I didn't insert a new post. And so yeah, that's just some simple error checking. And that's the script in its entirety. And so you can see, I mean, it's short and easy script, probably even shorter without all the comments, but I think the comments add a bit of value there. So just roughly at approximately 80 lines, probably less than that, probably about 60 lines of code to create your automated WordPress post and page. So let's bounce back into our browser, and I've already set up the file, and we will execute this file. And it says, yay, I made a new post. Execute it. So here in activity, we should now see a post that is set to post in 1 minute into the future, which it is 4:23 p.m. And so 1 minute from now, before 4:24 p.m., and we will post this. So if you look on the site, you'll see that it says nothing is found. And so nothing is found, and what we'll do, we'll just keep refreshing until the actual post happens. And so one of the value points here is that using this automated scripting, this means that now you can actually set up a site, and basically as long as you're able to set up a cron job to run or execute that script, you can now have a script that automatically makes WordPress post either, second on the second, minute on the minute, hour on the hour, whatever schedule you need to post. You now have that script to do it. Again, I chose to basically take you through a light version of creating a post. Now, obviously, with a little elbow grease here, you can come in and actually begin to make this a bit more complex in terms of, if you can actually make it parse an Excel file, and, let's say you had 1,000 posts in an Excel. Well, you could actually parse the file and then use a for each statement that loops through each line of that Excel statement, and then instead of all these values, like the lead content, the title, all that stuff being hard-coded, you can then make it dynamic in nature and do a WordPress insert for each of those. For now, we'll jump back and let's see if our post has posted. And voila, there it is, it posts. So exciting new post today, 3/21/2017. As you can see, vacations are the best thing. And then it says continue reading. You click that, and there's the rest. Expensive they are, but they are totally worth it. And that's how you create a WordPress post. And if we refresh here, you'll see that it will soon. So then it already tells you it's been recently posted. And if you wanted to, you could go in, you can make edits, changes, and you can also see that the auctions category was set. And so in addition, if I click auctions from the site, you can see that post shows up. So that's it in a nutshell. That's how you automate WordPress posts and pages. Again, we did the post. Obviously, if you did the pages would show up as a page on the front end as well as show up in the pages section here in the WordPress admin. So I hope that this tutorial was informative. I hope it actually helped you out. And like I said, get creative with it. Use it to get back time. I use this process as an example. I was for one particular site. I was actually creating 5 to 7 posts a day, and it was taking me anywhere from about roughly 5 hours a day, 7 days, basically 6 days a week. And so you look at that 5 hours a day, that now I can actually just run a script in a matter of seconds, and it creates all of those posts for me. So I don't really have to do much of anything. Matter of fact, I went from basically 5 hours a day down to roughly, once I compile the necessary Excel text file, Excel files and CSV files and text files, I got it down from 5 hours to a matter of roughly about 3 to 4 minutes of me just uploading the files to the respective directories and allowing that script then to parse the files, create the post. So again, I hope this is valuable time savings. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to drop me a comment below. In addition, please come over and visit kickstartcommerce.com, where I share a variety of search marketing, internet marketing, domain name strategies to help actually grow your business and help you reach qualified, or rather help you convert and reach qualified customers. So that's it for this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you soon.